Good morning everybody. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and hit the little bell notification button next to it, and that'll keep you notified of any new uploads. Today I'm going to talk about the good old L322. If anyone's been watching, our other Range Rover videos, you know how much I love this car. I'm just going to go over today how much it's cost to own this car for the last year. This is a UK car. We've imported it into France, so I'm not going to take the import costs into it. We paid £3,500 for the car. It had 124,000 miles on the clock, with a full service history, and had receipts for all the jobs that it had done, which the air suspension, the struts had been replaced, and odd jobs like that. So it had been well looked after. Now in the UK you have an MOT every year, which is like a vehicle inspection, and between each MOT it only really done a couple of thousand miles a year. We've already done over 10,000 in it this year. That's just going backwards and forwards to the other house. So, what's it cost to run? Not a lot, really. The big factor is that I can do a lot of the repairs myself, being a mechanic, and I'm in a wheelchair now, and it's a bit tricky. But things like the lower arms, the brakes, these are all jobs that anyone with a bit of common sense, you can do it yourself. Change the oil, change the filters. It's not rocket science. You open the bonnet and it looks a bit, oh, that's a bit scary. So things that we've had to buy for this car since we've owned it. My sister drove it over to France. I bought it sight unseen, which was a bit daft really, but we took a chance, and the gamble paid off. While my sister was running around the UK in it for about a week, the battery was playing up. You'd start it up, drive it for 5 minutes, switch it off, it was flat. But then you go to it another time and it would work fine every time. So she took it in. They did a test on the battery and it was 60% unserviceable. Like we have a dead cell in it or something. So that was the first cost, £130 for a new battery. That was free fitting. She took it into the tyre and exhaust centre. They put a new battery on it. It's the right one for the car. Job done. She drove it over to France. Absolutely no bother whatsoever. When she pulled up at the end of the drive, I was getting all excited. New car. It was making a bloody awful noise. That turned out to be on the rear, your handbrake shoes are inside the disc. Now the pins that go through the shoes had pulled through the back plate had rotted. Now, a genuine Land Rover back plate is £60, but you've got to take all the hub off, and I didn't really fancy doing that, so I just welded up the hole, drilled the hole, made a new one, got new handbrake shoes, a new spring kit, and I think that come to, the shoes were £15 for the set. That's both sides on the rear axle, and the spring kit was, I believe, £10. So that was that little job done. Next job, the windscreen wipers. Now I had a bit of drama with these. I tried ordering some of those aero blades off of eBay, and do you think I could get some to fit? The Range Rover arms are quite specific, so in the end, after a bit of trial and error, they was advertised as fitting this particular model. They didn't, so I went back to the original blades, got some of those. They were £12. So I don't think we've even got up to £200 yet. That's that. So that's pretty much been all the expenditure on the car. One other thing that we had to do, which wasn't really a running cost, the tow hitch had been removed completely. The framework was still there on the chassis, and the hole that held the quick release tow hitch, the hole was there. Everything was in the boot. Because it had failed its MOT in the UK on the trailer electrics not working, they just removed the lot and chucked it all in the boot. So yeah, we bought the proper towing electric kit for this particular car. They do cheap aftermarket ones that you splice it into the wiring loom. I didn't want to go down that route. I wanted the... It wasn't the genuine... What was it? I can't remember if it was now. But the wiring is already in the boot for this car, and there's a control unit, and it comes with all the instructions. So you put the socket on the back of the car, you thread the wires all through the boot up into the rear fuse box, all the wiring's there, you plug it straight in. And I wanted to go that route because when you plug the trailer in, that makes the car react differently. When you've got the trailer plugged in, that stops the suspension dropping into highway mode. You know, when you get up over a certain speed for so long, the suspension drops by 20mm. It stops it doing that when you've got the trailer attached, or a caravan or whatever you're towing, which is a good idea, because otherwise your ride height's up and down and your angle of your trailer is going to be changing. So that was an expense. That was about £160 for the complete wiring kit, but that came with the control module. It's not really a running cost, but it's something we've spent out on, so I'll add that into the total. So that's about £160. We already had the tow hitch in the boot, so that was just a case of bolting it all back on. And then it's got the quick release tow hitch, which just goes up in with the key. And then hopefully when we're not towing the trailer so much, I can take all that off and have a little bit more ground clearance for off-roading. So for most of the year, that has been it for the running cost. Or without, you know, adding up the fuel costs and all this, that and the other. Being the diesel, the TD6 is actually not too bad on diesel. They've lowered the speed limit in France on most sort of national roads down to 80 kilometres an hour. So that's about 50 miles an hour. You sit at that cruise control on, and it does nearly 30 miles to the gallon. Which, for a big old bus like this, towing a trailer, you know, we've got a twin axle trailer, although going to the house we're normally pretty light, but coming back, I mean, it's full of firewood at the minute, and we came back yesterday, it's doing nearly 30 miles to the gallon. So, but I'm not going to take the fuel costs into it over this year. I could work it out, but I just can't be bothered. So, anyway, the CT came, or it was due. Now that's the Control Technique, which is the equivalent of the UK MOT, but in France it's only done every 2 years. Tina took it up there, brought it back, and it failed. It's failed on excessive planar ball joint and the rear tyre on the driver's side. It didn't say exactly what it was, but it come under the thing of excessively out of shape, worn unevenly. Now in France, I hope it's still true, tyres across the axle have to be the same. They've got to be the same make, same size, same type and everything. So when it comes to changing your tyres, always change them as a pair across the axle, and then that'll pass its CT. We've got Nexans on it at the minute, Mud and Snow. I've got them in the garage. Gripmaster Stature Mud and Snow. They're a different tread pattern, but I've got a pair of them. Now that's a job that we can't do ourselves. We can't, you know, I've not got a tyre machine, and I'm not going to be fitting tyres by hand. So we'll be taking it up to the garage during the week to get that fitted. I think he's going to charge. I want to get the 2 front tyres, 1 valve changed. He changed the valve for us the other day because when Tina went to undo the valves, it had these silly Land Rover metal caps on that somebody put on it. It had got stuck and corroded, and as she undid it, it snapped the top of the valve off. She took the we took the wheel off and up to the garage, and he said it had got electronic valves in it, which obviously tell the car when your tyres going up and down, but I've not seen anything on the dashboard that would indicate that it even had them. So he's put an ordinary valve in. I want him to put an ordinary valve in the other side front and replace the valves. I expect he's going to charge about 100 euros for that. The 2 tyres delivered was 260 euros. I've done the ball joint, which was on the lower arm. I'd ordered the lower arm, the other ball joint and the height sensor in case the thing snapped off. Now what I'm going to do before the year's out is to change all the track control arms. If I say that I've done them and it can be in the total for the year's running costs, it would have cost me £200 for both the track control arms, both the lower control arms and both the ball joints. I can do the job myself, so that's another £200, and that's got the front suspension all sorted then. So there's nothing to worry about. After I've had all the suspension apart and done that, we're going to want to take it up to the garage to get the wheel alignment done, but I'll get that done when all the other jobs are done. That'll just make sure that the car drives in a straight line and you're not going to get uneven wear on your tyres. So that'll be that job. They charge about 65 to 70 euros for tracking wheel alignment, so that's another one which we'll put on the total. We're going to carry out an engine service. Now all the parts for the engine service I can get for £85. I'll have to check whether that includes the oil or not. And the last of all, I'm going to service the gearbox, the transfer box and both the front and rear differentials. Change the oil in the differentials. I'm not sure how much the oil is, I'll have to look it up, but I'll itemise it all at the end. And the kit for the gearbox, which comes normally with a gasket, the filter which pushes up into the gearbox, sometimes it comes with new bolts, and then the oil. I've seen that kit online for about £80, and then it's the transfer case oil and the front and rear diff oil, which if I'd said £50 for all the oil, I think that'll probably cover it. So all in all, running this Range Rover for a year has been quite inexpensive. It's probably a good thing that I can do a lot of the jobs myself. I've got Tina to help me, she does quite a lot. If I can't get to something, or if my hands are too big, she can get her little hands into places that I can't, so that's quite helpful. It sounds like she's just come home now, so peace will be shattered. But yeah, you'll know that I love these cars, absolutely brilliant. The reason we bought it was so that I could get around the land, and I didn't give it a lot of thought when we actually bought it, but the Range Rover is about one of the only 4x4s with adjustable suspension. So I can drop the suspension down to access mode and I can get in it quite easily, being in the wheelchair. Bloody interruptions. So yeah, it's quite easy for me to get into, and then you want to go off-road, you just lift it up. It all works perfectly. Luckily it's had a couple of suspension struts changed well, within the last year before I owned it at least. It has had some money spent on it, but when I look at the bills, the parts are quite reasonable. It's the labour that's expensive. So if you've got some common sense and you've got a little bit of know-how about you, doing a lot of these jobs on your own, you don't need any special tools really. Just get out there and give it a go. And yeah, so here's to many more miles, quite cheap, hopefully. So hope you like this video. Please click the thumbs up if you did. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell notification button. And from me and Tina closing the gates, it's bye for now.